Welcome back to BBC Radio London. You're listening to The Scene with me, Jasmine Dotiwala. I'm with you till 10 p.m. this evening. The track that you just heard, Jill Scott Golden, I've played that because this next guest that we have here today is all about positivity and fabulosity and good energy, and that is what Jill Scott's about. She's one of my favourite artists. So my first guest is a much needed person in these times because apparently we're more stressed than we've ever been before. Do you know there's even regional divides when it comes to stress relief, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But according to wellbeing organisation Forth, over a third of British residents feel stressed for at least a whole day every week. That equates to like 4 days in a month, and it doesn't end there. When taking into account the entire study group, apparently us Brits feel stressed for an average of 9 days per month. That's nearly a third of our lives, people. So what can we do? As a country, clearly, we need to pay more attention to rapidly rising stress levels and really work to get rid of them. And I recently did something across at Soho House called a Gong Bath. So in an effort to manage this, my first guest is a specialist in the sound healing and general wellness industry. Sound healing's just really popping off and growing in popularity. And so I said, what would be better than having an interactive experience right here on the radio? I mean, listeners, have you heard of a gong bath? It's said that the sound and the vibrational energy of a gong is an ancient and powerful tool that they used to use to help still the mind, allow the body to deeply relax. And apparently in this state, you can begin to process and release mental blocks and come into a real deep physical relaxation mode. So I hope you guys are ready to relax. Welcome to The Scene. Here to give us a totally unique new experience on BBC Radio London is Nicole Harvey.
Thank you. Hello.
Now, normally I'd whoop and cheer, but I'm aware that our energy, it's all about being calm at this point. So welcome to The Scene. As you know, I can't normally let you speak until we've done our usual question, which is introduce yourself and tell us which of London's cultural tribes you represent.
Okay, so firstly I have to say that I'm part of the northern and now adopted southerner tribe. I'm from Yorkshire and can't stand the cold tribe.
Northwest London tribe. Hug trees to keep sane on Hampstead Heath tribe. The empowered woman late bloomer tribe. Talk the talk and walk the walk, speak my truth tribe. The we can make a difference tribe. Did the patriarchy even work actually for the men tribe. The believe in art can make a change tribe. Me Too tribe, retired actress tribe. I love to shake it off and dance my heart out tribe. The fond memories of dancing to reggae, old school hip hop and drum bass in my shell toes at the Blue Note tribe, taking you back. I love classical music too tribe. The love to escape on horseback tribe. The born in the year of the tiger tribe. And I love gonging and getting
60
gonged.
seconds. You
tribe.
love gonging and getting gone. Nicole, welcome to BBC Radio London, and thank you so much. Listeners, what you can't see is across from me, Nicole has a giant gong. It's really big. 32 inches. He's a big fella, isn't he?
Yes, he weighs a ton.
And you said to me earlier, because I said to you, why do you not call your gong it? And you refer to him as a he. Why does your gong have a gender identity?
Well, if you stand a bit closer, you could feel he just feels really masculine. But he's a Pice D. They're based in Germany, and they do, as part of their range, planetary attuned gongs. So he's a Saturn, which is very male.
Okay, and that's why we refer to him as a he.
As a he.
So we will be playing him. Nicole has a furry rug on the desk that's whitey fur. She has a bunch of mallets of different sizes. There are mallets that bing and bong and ting and tong and
flumies.
And flumies. Is that the
Flumies,
official
that's the
word
word.
for them? So you're standing up with your gong. Tell us, first of all, I just want to hear a bit more about you. How does a Londoner like you, what part of London are you from?
So from Yorkshire originally, and I've lived in, oh my goodness, Paris, LA, Buenos Aires, and still in London.
And where are you in London?
Northwest London.
Northwest London. So how do you go from being your average person to a gong expert? You're a gong bath expert. How did you get into this industry?
Well, I before I got into becoming a healer and a hypnotherapist, and I got very passionate about sound healing as well as one of the things that I do. I went on my own healing journey. And so I'd experienced gong baths myself and just fell in love with the way it dispels your mind chatter, and the sounds are otherworldly and cosmic, and you can kind of just escape and go on a journey. And I just spoke to me. So decided to train further.
So gong bathing, I've realised in the last year, has become really popular, not just around yoga studios and meditation studios where you'd expect it to be, but also just at gyms and keep fit classes have been doing gongs for the last 5 minutes. What is a gong bath?
Okay, so there's no water involved.
Listeners, we don't have to get naked. Nicole, if people want to join in with us right now, can they do it anywhere they are? I mean, I'm sure we've got some runners, we've got taxi drivers, we've got people at home. Who should and who should not try this?
Okay, so the point is to be relaxed and allow that. It's like, you know, if you're going to get hypnotised, you don't want to be operating heavy machinery. We'll say that's standard, get out, right? So ideally, if you're driving, folks, pull over. And
you don't want to be too relaxed at the wheel.
So normally a gong bath can be, like you've talked about, yoga studios. You're lying around on yoga mats, you might have a snuggly blanket. You need lots of water. Because it actually rehydrates your blood cells. So I think that's why you need more water. So yeah, just relax, really. Get comfy.
And how would you convince our more cynical listeners to feel and understand and believe in the power of the gong? Because I have to admit, I'm really very cynical. I'm very, really, this gong is going to help me, how, etc. Convince me, Nicole.
Well, I think I already have, because that's why I'm here. But there are cynics, of course, who just know what a lot of nonsense. But the gong is ancient, yes. I mean, it was originally Chinese, used for ceremonies, for healing, for summoning, for ceremonies, for spiritual uses. It's something very sacred, but it just, now the science is backing up. It doesn't matter if you're a cynic, because there's all these experiments that have been around. So what happens is, you've talked about the stress levels. So anxiety, depression, I have so many clients who have that going on. And I think in London, we're just very disconnected from ourselves. But the gong is just brilliant at giving you that window, which normally is an hour. And if our sympathetic nervous systems are taxed out, this kicks in and gets your parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. So everything slows down. So your brain waves deepen. And then by the process of entrainment, your body systems slow down. So that's where the inspiration can come, the healing can happen. And there was an experiment in Australia, and they looked at blood cells, and 20 minutes in, the quality of the blood cells had improved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you
have
mentioned...
that, cynics. Have that.
No, have that, cynics. I mean, you mentioned the history behind gongs, and actually I was reading up on it, and it said that the ancient times, they used to say that if you were gonged for 10 days, you could be cured of anything. So listeners, I like to think that after 4 months of us being on the radio together, we're close and that you trust me, so let's settle down together for a gong bath. And as I've said, it's a different type of a bath. You don't need to take your clothes off. We're not going to get wet. There's no water involved. This is the type of bath where we are going to get benefit and rejuvenation and positivity. And what did you say, Nicole? Our blood cells are going to be rejuvenated? The quality of our blood cells is going to improve. Okay, so let's do this. So listeners, you've been warned. A gong bath is a serious brain state altering relaxation session. It's going to build up to an hour if you go to a session, but just here on the radio for the next 15 minutes, we're going to be talking through the gong sounds that Nicole has. I'm going to ask her to explain the different mallets, the different sounds. So get ready for an experience. Let's go, Nicole.
So I'd begin by inviting everyone to get really comfy and relax all their muscles through their bodies. And sometimes I even have a rain stick and get them to imagine they're on a beach. And make these strange, interesting sound unlike anything you've heard before, right? It's not a common sound, so it's easy to give your mind something else to do and be curious and stop bugging you with the itch on your right knee, or did you leave the fridge door open?
It's a bit whale sound like, isn't it?
Well, if you like whale sound, wait till you hear this.
Nicole's running around to the other side of the gong. And so what would you use this sound for during your Gong Bath session?
So I think it's that invitation to go on a journey. So if people imagine they're in a beautiful place that they like to relax, which for a lot of people is a beach, then it's very easy to then talk about the whales, inviting them on a journey to swim off somewhere dreamy.
And how long would someone be lying there within the hour session that you do for that part of the sound? How long would that go on for?
I use it at the beginning and then I might come back to it in the middle. So it's varied. So there is obviously variations of levels. The gong builds up layers of sound and all these glorious harmonics come through, and then certain crescendos, which are obviously full on. These are just very curious noises because it's nice to have the silence as well.
And what are the different sections and the running order of this gong session? You'd relax everyone at first, and what different layers and sounds can we expect from the beginning?
So that's kind of pretty much how I'd start, and then with the mallets it's a different sound again. This is 2. And I might get them to imagine they're walking on a journey, or they're building up some more courage for something, or set intents for. Often we theme them around the moons. So around a full moon you'd invite someone to do more of letting go and forgiveness, and then the new moons, obviously it's about manifesting and setting intentions.
Oh, that's really vibrating.
Yeah.
And so what's the type of reaction that you've had during your Gong Bath classes?
So obviously it's very hard because I take them so deep, and someone at the end of the last one I did went, "Oh, I've not been felt that relaxed since exercises at drama school."
Have you had any strange or outrageous reactions?
Someone's trapped nerve released. I've got someone's kidney stones to shift.
Wow.
That was the most dramatic.
Kidney stones have shifted during a Gong Bath without you touching
Not
them.
during. I did a specific ceremony for that person because they'd been in hospital in agony.
Wow.
And
what
then,
else? What other?
Insomniac sleep, anxiety sufferers also sleep and just feel relaxed. I've had someone with a massive work crisis. She suddenly got that flash of inspiration, because obviously you're in that deeper brainwave state where inspiration can come, because we're so in fight or flight all the time in our mobile phones. We do it for everything, right? And it just means that we're overstressed. So we need those moments of calm.
And I imagine that there's lots of different types of emotions that happen during this. So tell us some of the emotions that people have told you that they go through.
So I think because I invite people to set an intention, and I do work in a sort of, I set a safe space for them, I haven't had any massively kind of teary outbursts or something. But it also, for example, if it's around the full moon, people do go howling, there are more fights, and everyone gets a bit more. So if you then have a gong bath, you might have a big release. If there's something really bubbling under the surface, this is surely going to allow you to release it, because usually that's why people cry. It's releasing.
And I've heard that people also release tensions from former lives and stuff. Have you ever had any experience of that, where people talk about something that they've always been fearful of and something that's been released? I mean, what's your theory and thoughts on things like that?
I tend to use past life regression, and then
with the gong, like very, very open people will maybe have flashes. So in the gong, if they go really, really deep, they can maybe see colours, or they'll have visions will come to them. And if it's a past life flashback, then so be it.
And so how will that manifest itself in past life flashbacks? So, for example, one of my fears is in yoga, I can do handstands, but not headstands. Being on my head and putting weight on my head terrifies me. I just have got this fear of my neck snapping. Would that be something that you think could be part of my past? Or
often when we've got inexplicable fears that we can't perhaps attribute to childhood, so obviously in hypnotherapy I'll regress people back to their childhood, and there'll be things that they can't remember that pop up that their subconscious lets us know about, and you reintegrate and that kind of freaked out child. But thing with past lives, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation that we probably haven't got time for, but certain architectural design favours, music, I think even my dad had said, they were in Cornwall and he went, Yorkshireman, I know what's over that hill. And my mum was like, oh, you've probably been. He went, no, I haven't. And it's exactly as he pictured it.
Yeah, from the past life or something.
Yeah, right. He reckons he was a pirate.
The emotional reactions that you get from people who are lying in your gong bath, I imagine everyone's just lying on yoga mats around studios.
Yeah, snuggled in blankets maybe. Some people fall asleep. I get permission for the snorers to have
people do break into
their
snoring,
neighbours maybe pull their toes or give them a nudge, because you can imagine it's not very nice if is what you hear next
Okay,
to
so
you,
we've
right?
got sleepers, we've got emotions, people might cry. Have you ever
Generally just really relaxed.
Really relaxed, but no
Yeah.
one gets overexcited, or nobody gets excited anywhere else in their body?
I haven't seen any blankets rise, but I'm too busy in the candlelight.
I just wondered because sometimes when you're relaxed and if the energy, because I remember one of the things that you said, I think when I was in a session with you, was let the vibrations penetrate your body, and I think I sniggered a little bit to myself, and I was like, I hope she doesn't hear me sniggering. Oh look, we've got a text on screen. Cracking show, Jasmine. Love the gong spiritual talk, Nicole. Thank you. You haven't signed your name, so yay.
Thank
hello.
you. But yeah, I think that's what's so amazing about the gong, because it's such a big sound. We're obviously playing him gently because the mics are sensitive, but you can imagine being in a big room where it can just ring out. You do feel it in your body, and because we're nearly 70% water conducts sound, so that's why we're so affected by sound, and be conversely affected by dissonant sound. So these sound healing works on good resonant frequencies that help our systems.
And for those who obviously haven't got access to a gong bath or haven't managed to engage with you personally, I hear that the voice, and you just mentioned voice, and things like humming can also help. Do you do like humming meditations?
So,
it's something that we could do with our listeners now for the last couple of minutes.
Well, so singers are obviously super happy because they get this wonderful thing. Chanting, I think there was a story about monks had their chanting taken off them and they all got sick, and then they tried everything, but when the chanting was reinstated they all got well again. So that shows you. So perhaps we don't all have time to, or very religious to chant, but yeah, there's been lots of research done about humming.
Can we do something now with the listeners, literally? An
we can
interactive
hum
thing.
if we like.
Let's hum. Okay, tell them what they should be thinking about.
What's really
doing.
beautiful, or we could do an R. So that's, again, mantras are really helpful because it gives the mind something to do. So an R is a sound that generates compassion. So what a lot of people like to do is, I invite them to do this at the beginning of my gong bath. So for example, if you want to manifest something, it's really nice to have an attitude of gratitude first. So you can have your hand on your heart and think of someone you love or a pet you love, and that lovely warm glow, ready bright glow feeling, and just all together we can just breathing in, and you can keep and then some people in beautiful circles, you want to heal the planet, will imagine that going all around the world. So that's a lovely thing. Oms are lovely things. You've probably done those at the end of yoga classes. And humming, it gets rid of your mind chatter. You might not be able to whistle and sing all the time, but you can hum. In
Love
London,
that.
everyone's just headphones glued to their phone.
Hopefully the BBC
right?
Radio London listeners have had a moment of spiritual awakening and enlightening and had a little humming moment. If you've just tuned in, listeners, we're here with wellness expert and gong queen, Nicole Harvey.
I'll take
She's
that.
brought her gong in. It's 32 inches. Oh, sorry, it's not 32 inches. He is 32 inches. Go on, give us a bit of a bang before we go.
And also, for some wellness tips, if you go to haveyourmagic.com, I wrote a blog about all that we've talked about and just practical things that you can do to feel better because everyone's so stressed.
Great. One more time then. Where can listeners engage with you?
So haveyourmagic.com, at haveyourmagic on social media, and happy to hear from you. And
Thank you so much.
Support certain charities with the Gong Bath and the corporate world being like open to collaboration.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in and gonging with London. The capital is now relaxed and our blood cells are more positive than they were 20 minutes ago.
Tingle, well, thank you so much for having me.
Listeners, we'll be meeting our second guest straight after this, but first a track in honour of her.